and welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick with the City of Hampton. And today we're going to talk about a serious issue, which is child abuse. April is Child Abuse Awareness Month, and it's time for all of us to stop and think about it. So to bring a local light to this national issue, we have Commonwealth's Attorney Anton Bell. Welcome, Anton.
Thank you for having me.
And we have Regina Marscheider of Stop Abuse, and she's holding a doll or puppet because you communicate directly to kids.
Yes, I do. This is Simon, and he is the main character in our Emmy Award-winning child abuse prevention program, Simon Says Just Tell. And Robin, this is a really wonderful and very gentle program that teaches young children how to recognize, prevent, and disclose sexual abuse.
Tough issue.
Tough issue, but in a gentle way.
Yeah. Well, people need to learn to speak out.
Right.
Anton, how big of a problem? I mean, you prosecute cases,
Yes.
and it must be, not the fun part of your job to dig into these issues, but yet to get justice for some of the victims is important. How big an issue is it?
Child abuse is one of those silent taboos. It goes on and the neighbor doesn't know, the preacher doesn't know, some family members don't even know. Mm-hmm. And so many times and I came to Hampton more than 15 years ago now, and I came in as a specialist prosecuting child abuse cases. And many times those cases, when you review them, the child had been abused for years sometimes. And so we want to empower children to recognize first the signs of grooming, when someone is trying to desensitize them to be open to child abuse. And then we also want to empower them to be able to have the strength to tell, even if somebody has done something to them that's improper. So it's just a great program. I love it.
Well, and so you guys really work on different parts of the problem, trying to prevent and get people to speak up. By the time it gets to you've got a damaged family.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It damages not just that particular child, but everyone that's connected to that child. You have parents who deal with grief because they feel, I should have known,
right.
I should have seen the signs. But every child doesn't display those outward signs. There are some children who may make straight A's in school, and they may go somewhere and be abused and never feel comfortable telling. And then some perpetrators threaten to hurt the family members. And so because of that, they're silent. So we're dealing with trying to heal an entire family. And then you have to bond with that child and give that child the courage and empower them to be able to go to court and testify in front of either a judge or a jury so that that perpetrator is held accountable for their behavior.
Now, a lot of times this can be a family member, which even further tears a family apart. But it isn't necessarily. I mean, it could be a trusted adult, someone. What are some of the signs you might see? So if I'm a parent watching this and I'm thinking, what should I be alert for? What kinds of behaviors might be indications?
The child may become withdrawn. You may see the child acting out. I had a case where there was a young man, he was 10, and his mother was abused, and the person actually tied him up and put him in the bathroom of the bedroom, and he heard the abuse taking place to his mom. It was a stranger rape. And that child went from a perfectly normal 10-year-old, 11-year-old to a very, very aggressive young man. Of course, his grades began to suffer. He was angry all the time. He was withdrawn. And so you do see your child change. And sometimes we may think, well, my child is having a mood.
Right, or it's the teenage years, they're going to have moods,
absolutely.
It's just, yeah.
But you have to be able to communicate with that child, and that child feels comfortable enough communicating with you where you don't just assume. We cannot assume any longer. We live in an age where people are really, really off. And so we have to make sure that we have that type of communication with our children and with our teenagers so they do feel that it's a safe place. I can tell mom, I can tell dad, and they're not going to be angry with me. And in some cases I've had where the person may have offered the person alcohol, the child alcohol, or maybe drugs to kind of desensitize them. And so they feel like, well, I can't tell it because I was doing something poor or bad, or maybe they skipped school. So it's my fault. I did something to contribute to this. But no, you didn't do anything to contribute to someone abusing you. You are a victim, and it's okay to be able to share what happened to you, even if you may have done some bad things. I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned about the abuse.
And so some children may be angry and act out. Some other children may be withdrawn or even, hurting themselves or blaming themselves or whatever. I think it really depends on everybody reacts.
Everybody's coping skills is different.
Well, how did you get involved in this issue? You've been doing this for quite a while.
Simon turns 30 this year, and I think he looks pretty good.
He looks great, doesn't he?
Yeah. So, well, I was asked by a school teacher where we had been doing some other programming, because I'm also Spectrum Puppets, and I have over 300 marionettes. And she knew that I had been doing some programming, educational programming. So she asked me if I had ever addressed this issue, and I said no, I hadn't. So then I met with a sexual trauma unit, which was a Child Protective Services and a police detective. And then 2 years of research and development, and then I built the show. We went out there, children were coming forward, children were preventing abuse.
See, that's what I was going to ask. Like, do you get an immediate reaction from kids sometimes?
Most times a child will come forward after the show, but we have a safety net of professionals there. We always have someone from Child Protective Services or from the police department, so that any child that does come forward is immediately evaluated and referred. So it's been very successful, and we've never had any false accusations, so I'm proud of that. And so for 30 years, I've been telling children, giving them a voice and the courage to tell. And then it was just a couple of years ago that actually Simon has been my savior, because it happened to me as well. But I came from a generation where you didn't talk about it. And even once you did, it was swept under the rug, and that was it. So for me, it's really important every time I hear that a child, prevented it from happening, that, it makes me feel better. So,
wow. So you were doing this, you wrote the show, and all this time you have stuff down inside of you, what happened to you, and it just sort of came out one day on TV.
On Fox News. So, yeah, but, Simon gives children the courage to tell. He's kind of like their inner voice, their conscience. And the show is really wonderful. There's songs, there's some, humor in it. It's very gentle, but it's also about a little girl, and mom is a single mom with 2 children. She's about to get married, and she's all excited because Martin is coming that night for dinner, and he's going to ask me to marry him, and won't that be wonderful? Well, for Lori, it's not wonderful. And Simon ends up telling her to write a letter to Mom, and Mom knew nothing about it. And I think the most important thing, and I think, Anton, you'll agree, is that parents need to listen. Like when a child says something, you have to listen. And a lot of times people don't want to, they don't want to face it.
Yeah, because it's their life too. And I think that's the thing too. If children tell and the adult doesn't respond, tell another adult.
Yes.
Tell somebody different.
Absolutely.
Because somebody will listen. But unfortunately, it might take a couple tries. And how hard is that for a little kid to say it once, much less to have to say it again?
It's very, very hard. And one of the things I'm looking forward to that will be part of our show as well is we're putting together a children's book, Simon Says Just Tell, which will give parents the language to talk to their children about sensitive issues. So we're constantly developing the program and making it easier for children to deal with this issue.
What a tough issue, but how important it is to start the conversation. Because it at least opens the door a little bit for a child to come forward.
Absolutely.
Now you're going to be able to take your show to Hampton's elementary schools.
Yes, thanks to Anton. He has helped raise the money so that we can go to all 20 elementary schools in Hampton with our show. So I'm really happy about that. And we have a white cast, we have an African-American cast. We've recently
Green,
we've recently translated the show into Spanish, Spanish, so we, you know, we love to be able to go into a community and have the kids identify with their culture. So I'm excited.
That's wonderful. Now you're going to give us a little taste of the show at a special, I hate to call it a celebration, but a commemoration, a kickoff at Hampton City Hall. Anton, tell us about that.
Well, you know, we're going to kick off the Child Abuse Awareness Month for April. And so the city is going to be lit up in blue. And it's going to be on March 28th at 5 p.m. at City Hall. And we're just going to have an awesome time just recognizing the power and the strength. Many times when a child goes through abuse, their power is taken. And so we're going to celebrate the fact that you're not just a survivor, you're a thriver. And so we're going to celebrate the strength within children who have come through child abuse.
That's wonderful. And I do want to credit the Exchange Club. I know the Downtown Exchange Club and the other Exchange Clubs. This is one of their issues. They help with awareness and drawing attention to this issue. So they're involved in this as well.
Yeah, and we're both Exchange-ites.
Yes.
Oh,
In fact,
are you?
I went to the breakfast
Downtown.
this morning at the Grey Goose. So yeah, they're very involved. And we're going to have a candlelight ceremony. And again, I'm going to do 2 little segments from my show. There's 2 songs that I think will be really wonderful. And I hope more children will come out so that they'll enjoy that as well.
And you know, it's a good, again, in terms of opening the door, if parents come with their children and provide that atmosphere to have the discussion, and sometimes you might find that your child knows another child it happened to, because I think children sometimes talk to each other before they talk to us.
They will.
And you can really open that door and learn to have the discussion. And again, it's also preventative. I mean, certainly you hope when you open that door, your kid has nothing to say.
Right.
But if you start to empower them, they can potentially be more aware, say no, or at least speak up faster if something happens.
Absolutely. It's just crucial to be able to get that message out to children so they can understand that there is no shame in you being able to share with someone what someone has done to you. You didn't do anything wrong. And that's extremely important to let kids know you didn't do anything wrong.
And I think that's a hard message for the kid to hear, because you say, you know, they've been shamed, they're angry, there's all kinds of emotions going on, but a lot of perpetrators are smart enough to make them feel bad so that they maintain the silence.
They're master manipulators.
Yeah, it's a sad thing out there. And I think it's hard to talk about, too, because it makes us all feel as parents a little bit powerless, you know? We can't necessarily protect our kids, but we can at least give them the tools to recover. I mean, you don't want to have to recover 50 years later. You want to become healthy and whole quicker. And you also want to get that perpetrator caught so that no one else is getting hurt, because a lot of these folks don't stop.
No, that's just the first victim. They move on to the next one.
Okay, well, are there any last minute tips you want to leave us with about what things we can think of to help be aware of and encourage the prevention and the speaking out?
I think it's just really, really important that parents have open a dialogue with their children.
And not just once. You can't use this puppet show and then stop. You got to keep that door open. Okay. And I interrupted you. Were you done?
No, that was
Sorry,
what I wanted to say. Always to have the dialogue and make sure your children know that not only can they tell you anything, but that, you know, you will listen and you won't be judgmental.
Okay.
And trust your instinct, your parental instinct. If you sense that something's not going on well with your child, ask questions. Go into their room, look around, but be inquisitive. Don't be afraid, because one of the things that I notice with some parents, they don't want to know. They don't want to believe that my child has dealt with something like this.
Because it's also sometimes, often, you know the perpetrator.
Oh, absolutely.
Almost all. I mean, you know, there's occasional stranger cases, but most times you know them, whether they're in your family or in your close association. And so it's this double whammy. It's like my kid's abused, and this person who I trusted
violated me. You violated my trust.
Yeah, so you don't want it to be. It's not that you don't want to know, it's that you don't want it to be real.
Right. That's it.
Okay.
I think that's perfectly worded.
And make sure to call a professional if you find something
Absolutely.
out. Make sure
do not hesitate.
Take steps.
Yes. That person has to be held accountable.
Right. Thank you. Thank you both so much.
Thank you,
Robin.
And thank you. I hope you will attend the ceremony at City Hall and be vigilant. Have that conversation with your kids. Have it more than once. Keep the door open so they know they can talk to you or their friends can talk to you. Thanks for watching.